goosebumps every time I hear that. And if you don't know, just take a minute to guess. That's Joe Johnson's double overtime game winner versus the Pistons. And that was Ian Eagle and Greg Anthony on the call. And that was one of my favorite moments of the year. At that point in the season, I was convinced the Nets weren't going to go anywhere in the playoffs. And if people ask me why, I would say, we don't have a closer. Darren Williams has shown he's not able to close games. And Joe Johnson is not shooting great at all at that point in the year. After he made that shot, I'm like, we have a closer. That's Joe Johnson. I mean, that was a behind-the-back, step-back. That's a tough shot, tough shot, tough to defend. And he did it in front of Tayshaun Prince, who's one of the best defenders in the NBA. So it's not like he did it over Carmelo Anthony, who doesn't defend at all. It's like, yeah, I took a shot, you Knicks fans, if any Knicks fans listening to that. Carmelo Anthony doesn't play defense. All he does is wants the ball. But, yeah, Joe Johnson is the reason that's got the 4 seed with those clutch shots. He had not just the one versus the Pistons. He had it versus the Wizards. He had 2 versus the Bucks. He had the 1 versus the Knicks. He was just clutch. He was amazing. Who's the one player that disappointed me the most this season? Well, I would have to go with, I guess, it's a tough one. Gerald Wallace and Chris Humphries. Gerald Wallace, I was expecting big things from him because of the fact that he was we got him last year, and I didn't really hear much about him. He's an elite defender, so I thought we knew he didn't have much offensive talent, but you would expect more than what he was doing in the regular season. Regular season, he was just a liability out there on offense, and his defense wasn't that impressive. I was expecting before the season started. I was thinking, okay, Brook Lopez, I knew was okay. I didn't think Brook Lopez was great like he is. No one expected that. I was thinking Darren Williams. I compared the Nets versus the Heat. I said Darren Williams can beat any point guard they throw at us. I said Joe Johnson can probably beat Dwayne Wade. And I said maybe Gerald Wallace can shut down LeBron. He could be the shut down defender to shut down LeBron. Then Brook Lopez would just dominate them inside. Then we have our power forward, either Humphries, Blatch, or Evans, getting rebounds. So, and of course another one, Chris Humphries. We got in New Jersey. Those past few years in New Jersey, he was one of our best players. He was huge. He was good. He averaged a double-double, 10 points and 10 rebounds. The last 2 years in New Jersey, he was not bad on offense. He was pretty good on offense. And then you give him a big contract, and he's one of those guys. He gets the money. He doesn't try anymore, and it's disappointing because I thought he was going to be a huge impact for that. I was expecting him to be part of our starting 5, but then he just gave up. Oh, he got his money. He doesn't need to play anymore. I mean, I hate people like that. But I think that Chris Humphries, we got to let him go. Got to keep Wallace because of his defense. Wallace got his shot towards the end of the year. I think Wallace will be okay. But Humphries, just get rid of him. He's too much distraction off the court as it is. And if he's not playing well on the court, just get rid of him. He's not worth it, honestly. But another person who may have disappointed in the playoffs was Stackhouse. I mean, Stackhouse did so great. I didn't even expect anything from Stackhouse. Then he had that big game versus the Knicks for those huge threes. Then whenever he was in, he was making shots. Then he got hurt. Almost everyone forgot he was on the team. Then he goes in the playoffs, and what did he airball, like 3 shots in a row that he took? But Stackhouse disappointed me in the playoffs, and the number one disappointment was Avery Johnson. He was an unbelievable coach back in the early 2000s with Dallas. Then he goes with the Nets, and he gets fired. Well, I think that, don't matter if it's Nets fans, but I think Darren Williams did get Avery Johnson fired. I'm just being real. I think he got Avery Johnson fired because Darren Williams had a reputation of getting coaches fired. They said with Jerry Sloan. Maybe that's why people thought Darren and Dwight would be perfect together, because Dwight got Van Gundy fired. Maybe they thought 2 coach killers. No, I'm just kidding. But I think that Avery Johnson definitely didn't deserve to be the coach because the Nets were nervous. The fans were getting nervous. They were expecting big things in their first year in Brooklyn, and a 15-15 start. I'm not going to cut it as the head coach with all those expectations. But the one player that surprised me the most this season, I'd have to go with Brook Lopez. Because Brook Lopez, he had so many injuries. I wouldn't expect him to stay healthy this year, and then he had perhaps the best stats of any center in the NBA this year. He had the most points per game of any center, best player efficiency. He improved block shots. His rebounding, people criticize him for his rebounding, but I bet if Tyson Chandler, Dwight Howard, and Reggie Evans, they wouldn't get as much rebounds either. I'm not saying they would get as less as Brook Lopez, but they wouldn't get 10 or more. And when people throw at me that Brook Lopez Tyson Chandler debate, I just laugh at them. Like, it's not even close. They'll say, "Oh, Chandler's a defensive specialist." Well, not against Roy Hibbert in the playoffs, was he? Roy Hibbert just completely dominated him. And Brook Lopez did versus the Bulls. He quietly did a great job. Well, Game 1, we all know he dominated in the beginning. Game 7, he was kind of not there. No one was there. Game 7. The only person there, Game 7, I keep saying, was Gerald Wallace. Gerald Wallace was huge. Gerald Wallace was the only person fighting. He made a bunch of huge threes and that slam dunk to get the Nets back in the game, but they couldn't finish it. Well, because apparently Marco Bellinelli is Ray Allen with those huge threes. I don't even know who that guy is. And the Bulls have every right. They called us heartless and gutless, and that's what they said about us. They said we're heartless and gutless, and they said that's why they feel they can beat the Nets. And that report came out, and the Nets were down 3-1. Then the Nets, they're like, you know what, we're heartless and gutless. We'll show you. And then the Nets made it 3-2. I was at that game. The crowd was amazing. And then it was Game 6 in Chicago. And then when I heard Dang was out, I heard Heinrich was out. I'm like, okay. I heard Robinson had the flu. I'm like, okay, we're going to win this game, I had a feeling. And the Nets really couldn't get rid of them. The Bulls are a tough team. You got to give them credit. We may not like them, but they're a tough team. Them and the Pacers, the Bulls and the Pacers both are tough physical teams that give it their all. They may not have the stars, but they fight and they will die for loose balls. They'll get in the fights if they have to. Like Nate Robinson, the fake tough guy in my mind. He was trying to start a fight with C.J. Watson. Watson doesn't want to fight. Watson's a quiet guy. I want another person that surprised me this year, C.J. Watson. I mean, he replaced Derrick Rose last year and did a great job, but you would think that's a one-year wonder. People would have scouting reports on him, but when Darren Williams was struggling in the beginning of the season, C.J. Watson stepped in and did a terrific job for him when he needed him the most. The bench was huge in the beginning of the season. They started to fade when the stars started getting it back, but the bench also surprised. Our bench was among the best benches in the NBA, along with San Antonio, the Clippers. No Knicks fans. I'm not saying the Knicks. The Knicks bench is terrible. Besides J.R. Smith when he's not out partying, and yeah. So the Nets this year, I was proud. People say, "Oh, disappointed. We lost the first round." Think about it. Where were we 3 years ago? Yeah, it was not very good, right? And now look where we are. We got home court. Our first year in Brooklyn, we got home court. We took a tough Bulls team who wanted it a lot to a Game 7. It was a very successful season in my mind, and we have a up-and-coming superstar, perhaps, in Brook Lopez. He's already an all-star now. Brook Lopez, in a couple years, will be better than Dwight Howard, unarguably, in my opinion. Once he gets Brook Lopez, I'm calling next year, Brook Lopez will average 21 points, he'll average 8.5 rebounds, and he'll average 3 blocks per game. That's my stat line on Brook Lopez. And he'll shoot 53% from the field. Because Brook Lopez has so many variety of moves. He has the rip move we saw. He's going to develop a 3. He has to. His jump shot, which is a special shot, is his foot's in front of the 3-point line. If he just steps it back a little bit, he'll be fine and he'll make it in. Brook Lopez, if he develops a 3-point shot, he's unguardable. And here's the last topic I'll be discussing today. Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Down by 1. 2 seconds left. Who should take the shot and why? This is, for me, it's a pretty easy one what I saw. I think it should be Joe Johnson, Mr. Clutch, taking the shot. He's shown he can do it. He's versus the Bulls. It was Nate Robinson show. Everyone on the Nets was done. Darren Williams couldn't make his shot. Brook Lopez was tired. Everyone was tired. And then Nate Robinson, he goes on one leg. Darren Williams does great defense. He makes the shot and bang shot. He even knows it's luck, Nate Robinson. And all the Nets are down. They're down by 2. It's over, right? Then Joe Johnson makes a clutch floater to give the Nets hope to send it to another overtime. But then, of course, you know what happened in that game. I will never forget that game. That was the worst moment of the season for me. But Joe Johnson, I can name you versus the Wizards, versus the Pistons, versus the Knicks, versus the Bucks twice, regulation, to send it to overtime, then to win it in overtime, and versus the Bulls. He's gotten it done in the clutch, and versus the Pacers. So he's gotten it done numerous times this season, and he's never failed. He's not failed once. Darren Williams, I think he's not. He used to be. I remember seeing videos of him in Utah. He would make some big time shots, but every time we get him the chance, he's failed. Regulation tie game versus the Bulls, we gave him the shot, and he was wide open. He made a hop step back, wide open look, missed it, and then he versus the Knicks. If you remember, he had the shot, that wide open three, and he missed it. No, excuse me, Wallace had the wide open three and missed it. Then he got tipped out to Darren Williams, and he missed that one also. So the Nets, finally, the one thing I could say, they have a closer now. Like, coming into the year, we all thought Darren Williams would be a closer. Then it didn't work out so well. So then they gave Joe Johnson a try, and then he got it done. I think that Brook Lopez also, he's clutch. He's clutch. You can tell by his free throws. That's another thing that's happened this season. Brook Lopez improved on his free throws a lot, and that's been a huge improvement. He's shooting it at like around 80%. He was shooting it around 85% in the playoffs. That's among the best of all centers. But Game 7 of the NBA Finals, I would definitely give the ball to Joe Johnson and let him go ISO and try to make it happen. Well, that's all the time we have for today on the BKN podcast. I'm Anthony Parisi, and thanks for listening.